Hey, this is Pat Moorhead. Welcome to this edition of the More Insights in the Strategy Data Center podcast. Joined by my co-hosts, Will, Matt, and Paul. We're all here. So exciting. If it's your first time to the MI&S Data Center podcast, first of all, I'm going to ask you what's wrong with you. Where have you been? But I'm going to go in and be nicer and say, hey, we talk about this week's top data center and data center edge news. We talk compute, cloud, security, storage, networking operations, data management, AI. Of course, we're talking AI because every conversation has to be about AI. Little disclaimer here. We are going to talk about publicly traded companies. Don't take anything we say as investment advice. And if you looked at the status of my portfolio, you certainly wouldn't do anything that I even infer doing. So let's get started. We think we have a good show for you today. We're talking HPE, Aruba, Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse, RSA Conference. We're going to ask, how smart is GPT-4? And Paul, who's not a bot yet, is going to assess that based on some white papers he's been reading. We're talking AMD and Intel earnings because they pretty much dominate the data center when it comes to CPUs. We're going to talk Dell Zero Trust strategy, and then we're going to end up talking about Google and Microsoft to agreeing to open AI systems for evaluation. How about that? Aren't they nice? That's so nice. I just love that. So, hey, let's dive in. We're going to start off with a topic with Will. HPE Aruba launches Agile NaaS framework. You might need to explain this a little bit, Will.
I might need to. So it's no secret that HPE has been a leader in IT consumption services with GreenLake. And I was pre-briefed because I was actually in Paris over RSA Conference in Atmosphere. And Pat, I think you asked me, was I wearing a beret when I was running around Paris? And the answer is, yes, I was. And so I thought I would model that for the podcast today. But I'll take that off so it's not distracting. But let's jump into it. So what I really like about this Agile NaaS framework that HPE Aruba Networking now with the new branding is positioning is that they have now released tools that support a range of deployment and management models, because NaaS can be somewhat esoteric to a lot of enterprises. And what I also like about the tool set that they announced is that it doesn't require a forklift to move to a NaaS infrastructure. And so the second aspect of this was an update to its central management console. So it was branded Aruba Central for many years. This is the first major facelift for Central in quite some time. And I actually was taken through a demo, and the overall layout is much more intuitive now. And there's also a new time travel feature, which is pretty innovative, and HPE claims that it's an industry first. It allows a network operator with contextual information to basically go back to a point in time and do a full restore of the network configuration. So all in all, I think what they're doing here with that Agile NaaS framework, with those tool sets and the central updates, are helping to fortify its leadership position in the NaaS space.
Did you describe what NaaS is?
Network as a service. So I think for our listeners and viewers that are not familiar with it, it's the whole concept of treating infrastructure as an operational expense, not a capital expense, and basically having someone like Hewlett-Packard Enterprise provide that infrastructure on a subscription basis.
Yeah, it's interesting how, compute as a service, check, storage as a service, check, networking as a service, kind of new, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think it's a reflection of probably how locked down it is and how integral it is to the whole security point of view. That's good stuff. And by the way, I know the official name is HPE Aruba Networking, but that just seemed awful long in the new branding regimen. Matt and I covered that last week.
That's
I appreciate it. And let's dive into Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse. Matt, I think you were live in vivo at their launch event, or was it an analyst event?
An analyst event. Before we do that, I'm just going to propose we call it NaaS, because when I think of NaaS, I think of network attached storage. So throwing it out there.
I totally forgot about that. What's going on here? It just shows how networking, storage, and computer are still siloed, right?
Yeah, becoming less so though. So Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse. So I'm going to just throw this out there. I started working with Oracle 25 or so years ago. Huge fan of SQL Plus and PL SQL. I still dream of writing PL SQL in my sleep. I love it. And I'm kind of an old school Oracle guy, and I'm used to the old school Oracle, right? Big honking enterprise database system. Frankly, you pay a lot of money for really great reliability, resiliency, and feature set. But this is a new Oracle, and this latest edition of Autonomous Data Warehouse kind of really demonstrates where Oracle's going. They focused on openness. They focus on reaching a new generation of developers through some of the capabilities they've built in, and they focus on breaking down the barriers to adoption around cost, which is kind of unfamiliar for Oracle. Anybody who's worked in Oracle and has had to pay licenses understands. So this is their latest edition, multi-cloud capabilities, clean interfaces to AWS and Azure and Google Cloud, clean integrations to the data warehousing offerings from each one of those. Great integration into some of the unstructured data platforms that are out there, like AWS's Ice Lake, or not Ice Lake, Glacier, and a bevy of tools available for younger folks that don't want to write in structured languages to be able to go in and integrate data, run queries, and not have to be a database administrator. Love what these guys are doing. Love where they're going, and it really, to me, this is more about ADW, Autonomous Data Warehouse, and it's more about how the company is really. If I think I've mentioned this before, if I draw a liking or a parallel, it's kind of like Microsoft shifting from where they were into this cloud company. Oracle is going that way and then some. They're kind of really indexing on this new way of doing business. So super excited. I think it's going to attract a lot of users. Certainly, it's going to protect their existing business, but I think this opens up their addressable market considerably.
So Matt, does the autonomous data warehouse, is it autonomous based on any AI, machine learning, generative AI, something like that?
Yeah, without a doubt. And this is something you see through and through with Oracle. They built it into their MySQL HeatWave as well, but they use AI and machine learning to handle. I could spend 45 minutes on this because it goes so detailed. But when you think about the mundane tasks that database administrators perform every day, every week, and the amount of hours they put into tuning, to creating indexing capabilities, and to fine tuning those indexing capabilities, it's a never-ending art and science. And through auto-tune, some of these capabilities that Oracle's built in, that's based on machine learning and AI, they perform a lot of this auto-tuning on their own, so that those expensive DBAs that are wasting their time on these tasks don't have to do it anymore. So you want the best possible search at the fastest possible time. That's pulling from a lot of different tables with all these weird key constraints. Don't worry about it. Oracle's going to handle it on the back end for you. Trying to do your backups and your replications appropriately over time. Don't worry about it. Oracle's going to handle it for you on the back end. This is all they're driving to this. When we say autonomous, fully autonomous from an operations perspective, data warehouse environment.
Yeah, the first time I heard the moniker autonomous data warehouse, and I heard Larry kind of going through this, I was pretty skeptical. But as we move forward, it actually is in fact autonomous. Mm-hmm. And based on, I think, probably learning a lot of the learnings they had in SaaS, enterprise SaaS with Fusion, combined with their knowledge of data warehouse and databases, it seems like they've really pulled together something pretty special.
Yeah, and that's just one last thing on that, Pat, because I know I tend to talk a lot, so I'll go quick on this. But I think that's what makes them so unique. They have this, they have this breadth and depth of experience both across the SaaS world and the enterprise world. They've spent so much time in both that makes them really unique in how they approach delivering these solutions out. Because and I think they might be unique in that kind of breadth and depth experience around database, certainly. So that's why I'm kind of excited about what they're doing and where they're going to go from here.
That's awesome. And have you written any papers on this that people can learn more about this, or blogs?
Yeah, so we've done quite a bit. I wrote a nice white paper on autonomous data warehouse about a year ago. We can find it up on the More Insights and Strategy website. Certainly have contributed to Forbes quite a bit on this. And I'll have a new blog coming out on, I suspect, on Forbes on Monday or Tuesday that goes into much greater detail around what ADW is doing for enterprise customers.
Awesome. Sounds good, Matt. Let's move into the next one. We are going all over the place. We did networking. We're going into databases. Let's do a hard right turn into security. Yeah. Will, I know you were watching from afar. You had important stuff that you had to do at the same week as the biggest security conference out there, but you managed to do both and even popped out a Forbes article.
I did, Pat. And, I was tweeting. It was, probably body clock, 1 a.m. my time, but I was keeping tabs on the conference. And so RSA Conference is the largest cybersecurity conference in the world. It's in San Francisco. This year I was in Paris for my first wedding anniversary, but
heck yeah.
Yeah, but I was pre-briefed by a number of companies. And so from my perspective, the baton has been handed from the zero trust theme to AI. And I know we're going to talk a lot about AI on this week's podcast, but that was really the central theme. And someone from RSA Security that opened one of the keynotes was sort of speaking about the double-edged sword of AI, and that it can obviously help enterprises bolster their security posture, but at the same time, bad actors can leverage it for new innovative ways to hack and thwart, companies of all sizes. So that was certainly the central theme. From my perspective, there were lots of product announcements, but there was a real emphasis on insight reports. So companies like AT&T and BlackBerry and Zscaler published different reports based on cybersecurity readiness. Zscaler published a pretty, what I thought was a pretty comprehensive report on phishing and leveraging their Zscaler cloud data to buoy that report. But let me talk about BlackBerry for a moment, because I had a chance to be pre-briefed ahead of the conference. And
now, wait a second. Are we talking BlackBerry, the BlackBerry? I'm leading the witness, I recognize, but for all our listeners out there, BlackBerry is very much a security and infrastructure company now, and they don't have any devices. So
no.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how they've been able to pivot and move away from that and still leverage the credibility of that brand and really go into the cybersecurity world with really a full set of solutions. And so I did, as you mentioned, Pat, I did post a Forbes article. There's more detail behind that, so I would encourage our viewers and listeners to read that. But let me talk about one product announcement in particular. So Cisco. They had a couple of announcements at the event. I actually had the opportunity to be briefed by Tom Gillis. He's the new security GM that's returned to Cisco. And he's focused on Cisco delivering a security cloud that provides all the necessary context to provide the best-in-class security. So we talked about Cisco's new XDR, Extended Detection and Response capabilities that were announced at the event. And also Duo. And so Duo is multi-factor authentication. It's a passwordless platform. It's very, very popular. What Cisco announced at RSA Conference was they were taking its very popular trusted endpoints, which is a feature only available at the highest tier. And now Cisco is unbundling that and offering that at all tier levels within the Duo family. So they're delivering added value for their customers. So all in all, I think it's a strong set of announcements and really supports their push with their security cloud.
No, I love it. Just so much stuff going on in security. I mean, we have nation state budgets that, is a big contributor. And essentially, and this has been true forever with hackers, is they go for the highest ROI, right? Which is the more money I can steal, the more pain I can deliver with the least amount of effort. And with things like AI and machine learning, and then generative AI, it really is kind of a spy versus spy type of arrangement. And the target changes, right? It used to be that it was people would attack the software layer, and then people started going in and hitting the operating system layer, and then they started hitting the hardware itself, and then they started hitting the BIOS. I mean, it's just, and then once all this stuff gets blocked, and then they start hitting different things. The one thing, though, you can always rely on humans to do is to screw it up. Okay. And that's why phishing is so popular. I mean, we get a phishing attack probably once a week at the company. You got people pretending to be me, either over email, over text. Hey, can you please wire this money to, I need it. Come on, Zane. You're the office manager. It's Pat. Okay. Coming from some weird email address. So, and then the trick becomes locking it down in a way that doesn't keep people from doing their jobs. Because right, the conversation used to be perimeter, right? Oh, protect the perimeter. We are gods. That was BS because people got through the perimeter. Then it became, okay, we know people are going to get in. Once they get in, how do we minimize damage? Okay, sorry, how do we get them out? Okay, and then we got to that, but now, there was a lot of stuff that I saw in RSA is, okay, we know you're going to get in. We're going to try awfully hard to keep you out. Once you get in, we're going to find ways to get you out and lock you down. And third way is, you stole my data. How do I protect it? How do I get my data back? And how do I get back in operations? Companies like Cohesity with ransomware protection, data recovery, disaster recovery, all those different services are kind of as hot as I've ever seen, right? And there's 4 or 5 vendors that we track, including, Cohesity, folks like Veeam are big in this space. Commvault is obviously a leader in this space.
Pat, there's one other thing to that too, and that's if you read the NISP standards around cybersecurity, very, very prescriptive. But what a lot of folks forget is that upfront and the governance of your kind of security posture, right? And while we talk about detect, respond, mitigate, detect and respond, mitigate and recover, we forget about that up front. Like, how secure am I? What are my vulnerabilities? There's actually a company up in Boston, CyberSaint, that does a really cool job of kind of going across the enterprise, looking for vulnerabilities, and not only looking for vulnerabilities, looking for adherence to regulations, whether it's NIST or something in the EU, to assure, or even lower level, to assure that your posture is where it needs to be from a, not just you're secure, but from a compliance perspective. Really interesting stuff. And I think that's a market that's going to open up pretty broadly here in the next year or so.
Yeah, and I'll add just finally, Pat, before we close out, operational technology environments now are sort of the new frontier. And, the whole momentum with private cellular networking, whether it's LTE or 5G, in connecting these uncarpeted areas of the enterprise that have traditionally not been connected. With IoT, that introduces an entirely new threat surface, an expansive threat surface mostly with 5G and cellular, but also narrowband to a lesser extent. So, I mean, these actors are going to continue to find ways to worm their way into these networks to do denial of service, ransomware, and phish.
I love it. And AI is the future. Spy versus Spy. Any of you remember Spy versus Spy?
Oh yeah, I love that analogy, man. Yeah, yeah.
We're all old enough. I don't know if the 20 or 30-year-olds.
Mad Magazine.
Exactly. You know, the founder of Mad actually died,
Oh, do you
unfortunately,
really?
just recently. He was like 100. It's
Oh my
crazy.
gosh.
So, hey, let's go into, speaking of AI, Paul. I mean, I don't know if this is bot Paul or Paul or what's going on here, but there were a few pages that, a few papers that came out on GPT-4, like on how smart it is, more of a technological analysis on there. So what's going on here?
Well, just kind of put everything in context with time and technology. You know, we've gone through, basically we're in the fourth industrial revolution right now. First there was steam, then electricity, then the internet, and now AI.
Cool. Like that.
Within AI, then there's basically four levels that, you know, we've looked at. The ANI, which is the artificial neural intelligence, that focuses on, you know, basically one subject that an AI model can handle. And then there's AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, and that's the model that's basically equivalent to what a human can do. And then the superstar is ASI, the artificial superintelligence, which that's basically what everybody's afraid of getting to right now. So, but there are two papers. OpenAI had a research paper looking at GPT-4 compared to GPT 3.5. And then Microsoft had like 12 researchers that worked on a paper just kind of looking at how smart is GPT-4. And they ran it through all kinds of different tests, looking at human emotions and high-level math tests. And the basic conclusion was that this is very close to touching on AGI, which is kind of the ultimate objective that we're shooting for right now. And that's what's making people afraid. When I read the paper, I became more of a skeptic of, you know, how close we are to AI possibly becoming dangerous. I think we need to start looking at it and start planning for it right now, because I mean, it's so smart. When you look at the stats and the tests that it ran, I think you'd kind of become a believer that you know, we need to start looking at it. It's not dangerous right now, obviously. It's not gonna sit around and think and run all kinds of algorithms and problems. But you know, I think we certainly need to look at beginning to install some guardrails and some regulations on, you know, how it can be used and who can use it, and, you know, just taking a real close look at it. So,
yeah, I think this is going to be super interesting because I think we're in a different place from maybe 20 years ago, where I think probably on the whole people trusted government. And, you know, all the data that I'm seeing is that people, you know, they don't trust governments. And if you look at the way that companies are getting in there and replacing governments in certain ways, and then people not trusting those companies. So, you know, if you don't trust the government, if you don't trust big tech, then who are you going to trust? Right? Yeah, exactly. Who are you going to call on this whole thing? And I think that's going to be a big part of the wrangling here. I think you're going to see a lot of, but China, which says, hey, we can't shut this down or slow roll this in the US or Western Europe because China is going to go, you know, at light speed, and we can't have a competitive disadvantage. The first time this, you know, kind of debate came up, I kind of, you know, I'm thinking, did a little research on debates like this in the past, and whether it was the wheat thresher, you know, TV, radio, and these types of arguments. And every one of these, and even Google search, there was hand wringing on that. That's right. And I think as a society, we find a way to grapple through that, power through that. It's going to be ugly, though. It's going to be super ugly. Really interesting article that was written, I think it was Fortune, where IBM CEO Arvind Krishna, you know, he said what we're all talking about, all whispering in the room, but he was very clear. AI can probably replace 20 to 30% of my back office operations here, which it's so funny. I mean, I appreciate, if nothing else, we have a big tech CEO actually telling the truth and being open and honest on that. And there was a little bit of discussion afterwards on it, was this is what he meant, but we're all, every big tech CEO is thinking about how they move this forward, for a simple reason is that they work for the shareholders. And if their competition goes and implements this and is able to, slash OpEx by 30% using GPT-4, GPT-5 or whatever, Llama or something like that, then they're going to be at a disadvantage. They're going to get fired because their stock's going to plummet. So, but hey, what a great thing! Pandemonium creates opportunity for us industry analysts.
It does.
And, what's really concerning to me is the fact that when I look at this report on this research on GPT-4 compared to 3.5, I mean, there's a big difference, a big gap between what the capabilities are. So if we're looking at GPT-5, GPT-6 down the road, it's going to be some really amazing things that AI can. It's already amazing things, but it's even going to be more amazing down the road when we have a few more generations underneath us.
Yeah, Sam Altman made a comment that said, hey, are the models going to get bigger in GPT-5? And he said, no, they're big enough. We just need to make these models better. So, but yeah, I mean, it's already like, passing the bar exam and stuff like that. Hey, let's dive into the next topic, Intel and AMD earnings. We don't typically do earnings on the show, but Intel and AMD combined are about 95% of the CPU to the market and various levels of networking that goes into. Matt, what's going on? Or do we have a server cataclysmic downfall here? I mean, is this the end?
This is the end. AI is going to take over. Well, it's funny. I don't feel comfortable ever talking about financials because I'm not that smart. But
or you're too smart,
or I want to avoid. Yeah, I've never been accused of being too smart, by the way. But anyway, so I wanted to bring this up though because I talk to folks in industry a lot. I talk to both on the vendor side and the IT side. And they're talking about hand wringing. There's a lot of hand wringing going on about Intel and AMD's numbers. Intel, they both had not the best of quarters. And while it's easy to chalk it up to bad PC sales and a terrible PC market right now, the server side wasn't.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's Siri.
How about that?
The server side wasn't so wonderful either.
Is this really Matt?
Yeah, now I'm
Is
kind of wondering.
Is this bot Matt?
It's fine. That's funny. But the server side wasn't fantastic financially for either company either, right? Intel's numbers were down considerably on the server side. AMD's were as well. While not as bad as Intel's, they were still pretty bad. But there's an overall slowdown in the market that both companies are experiencing, and they've had not the greatest of quarters for different reasons. But both of them, when you look at portfolio, when you look at roadmap, when you look at kind of where their sights are set over the next few quarters, I'm not stressed about. This is why I wanted to talk about it. Stop the hand wringing. All is well. The sky is not falling. The market goes through these slowdowns, occasionally where you see data center spend slow down. Cloud spend has stalled. It's what's happening. We're not seeing Genoa or Sapphire Rapids in broad adoption in the cloud space yet, even though the platforms have been out there. They're going to get there. The market's going to rebound, and both companies are going to be fine. They both have a very positive outlook, or a positive outlook for second half of 2023. And given the vision of both, I think 24 and 25 are going to be super strong. So to all my IT friends out there, chill out. All is going to be well.
But I will add, Matt, I dug into it and, looked at their performance with networking and edge, and there have been so many starts and stops for Intel in that category. And Pat, I'd love to get your insight on that. I mean, what's going on there with Intel?
I mean, they primarily, first of all, this bucket of networking, including carrier, they're doing a great job in the carrier. It's really an Intel ARM battle for the RAN and Open RAN, and Intel is winning this right now. And as viewers also know, if they cover the space, there's like 17 different ways to do networking, right? Yeah. What got shut down was Barefoot Networks, which was kind of a more intelligent networking on the edge. And that was basically done because of cost cutting, right? Yeah. The company's stock is in a free fall. Intel had the biggest cash loss they've had in the history of the company. Yeah. And they're taking out things that are not sure bets to enable them to hit 5 nodes in 4 years, to crank up the money press again, and also get into the foundry business. So I feel like that is the story on that. Intel had a next business update that I attended that I thought was very convincing, that what they're continuing on doing is going to keep going. I think the opportunity that Intel has, particularly on the carrier side, where heck, up until 5 years ago, they weren't even virtualizing workloads.
Yeah.
You know, there were 5 different architectures going in. There were monolithic applications. They had zero flexibility. But with 5G rolling in and the ability to do kind of fractional, right, all the way from high latency, low bandwidth to low latency, low bandwidth, high latency to high bandwidth, low latency, it really gives them the opportunity. I mean, that they had to change. They had to move. They had to virtualize. They had to move to containers, and Intel stepped right up and helped them do this. On the server side, I mean, AMD did have double-digit growth with EPYC.
Mm-hmm. In the cloud space.
Yeah, in the cloud space. One of the things that I thought was interesting, one of the things that Intel did say is they didn't expect the market to crater as much as it did on the server side.
Yeah,
totally expected it on the client computing side, but not on the server side.
Yeah. And Pat, I think AMD actually has a nice opportunity on the server side as well. It's I don't think it's a coincidence that while they've seen growth year over year in the cloud, that they're this quarter is reflective of what cloud spend looks like. I think enterprise is still wide open for AMD. There's a lot of growth opportunity in that transactional business through the channel. They're still working at kind of fine tuning and really opening that spigot. When they do, I think they're going to have there's a lot more upside for them.
Good stuff. Let's shift back to security. And Matt, I'm going to call on you first. And let's hit Dell unveiled their zero trust strategy. Maybe a good place to start is, what is zero trust?
Yeah.
It sounds like a negative thing. I mean, trust is like a good thing, right?
Is it? I don't know. I'm a cynic. I don't trust anybody.
Well, in security, zero trust is definitely the way to go.
Or trust but verify. And I'm gonna butcher this and let Will come in and correct me. But zero trust effectively is this: I implement security, and I trust nobody. I trust no application. I trust no device. I trust nothing. I leave nothing. I leave nothing open for interpretation. So from the moment I order a server or a PC or a device, to deploying it, to provisioning it, to running it, I need to have control over that thing and assure I can control who can access it, what can access it, what comes in, what goes out, and what sits on it. That effectively is zero trust. And then you have to build that from server to OS to firmware to OS to application stack to data. And you have to ensure that there is zero air gap between any of those layers. And so, different companies take different approaches. HPE's done a great job with this. Dell, I really like what Dell is doing. They're saying, look, this is bigger than Dell. This is bigger than a Palo Alto. This is bigger than a Cisco or a VMware or some, a lot of these big players out there. This is a community effort. So we're going to build out a program that looks at security from going back to NIST, from how do you plan, how do you implement, how do you test, how do you assure, and how do you respond perspective. And we're going to build a community to help build out that entire zero trust architecture from supply chain all the way out to application deployment and provisioning or application deployment. So really cool story. They're pulling in the right players. It's about 30 companies right now. I expect that's going to grow over time. What I was mostly encouraged by was, look, any company can go out and work with other technology companies and say, look at this great thing we're doing. Some of the stuff I found really interesting is how they're allowing customers to go in and validate and test and harden their security postures. They're doing it through opening up labs so companies can have like their own sandboxes to go in and play around. I love I really appreciate what they're doing here. I think this is a real practical and pragmatic value to customers that are struggling with, assuring zero trust is recognized from the lowest levels to the highest. So I'm done butchering. I'll let Will take it from there.
No, Matt, that's great. I'll just add to your definition that zero trust, any sort of true zero trust solution, authenticates a user to an application, not flatly to a network. And that's where VPNs have failed in the past, and why, we saw during the pandemic, they just didn't scale, because it's, VPNs were invented before the cloud was born, right? So I'll just add that point. And to your point, I think this ecosystem approach plays really well to Dell's strengths. I mean, Dell is not necessarily R&D house, right? So they tend, and they do this with their telecom business unit as well. They tend to focus on building an ecosystem. I like the approach. There's some interesting partners that are involved with Dell in this initiative. Juniper Networks. Juniper Networks historically has been very strong in service providers, so that does make a lot of sense. But Juniper is pushing into the enterprise as well, so that's interesting. It's interesting to see Palo Alto Networks working with Dell as well. But what I sort of read into the announcement as well is that Dell is basically going to go deploy a private security cloud. That's their intention with this ecosystem. And that's not dissimilar to what I was mentioning with Cisco's strategy as well. And I think the cloud approach is mission critical, because that pulls in all the necessary context so that you can threat hunt, you can thwart, hackers and whatnot. So at a high level, I think it plays really, really well into Dell's strengths.
I apologize if this was stated before, but Dell's zero trust strategy is based on the DoD zero trust strategy, Department of Defense.
Yep.
And the partners that they've pulled in are Corsia, Gigamon, Intel, Juniper, MiSci, Nomad, NVIDIA, Palo Alto Networks, VMware, and others.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they ended their plug saying, check out more at Dell Tech World 2023. I'll be there. I'll be my third straight week on the road. Yay.
Yeah, I will mention, Pat, you mentioned Gigamon, and I've spent some time with Gigamon recently. Michael Dickman is their CTO, and he's a former Aruba executive. And stay tuned, because I think Gigamon has some great capabilities. There are a lot of observability companies out there, but what Gigamon does, from a granular level is quite compelling. So I sort of mentioned, kind of keep your ears tuned and your eyes open, because I think you're going to hear more from Gigamon in the not too distant future.
Awesome. Let's get into our final topic, and that's Microsoft and Google agreeing on something, and that's to open up AI systems. Paul, what's going on there? Is this architecture? Is this, hey, don't be afraid of me, I'm big tech now, because we're open.
Yeah, it gets crazier every day. Yesterday, there was a meeting called by Kamala Harris at the White House, In attendance were the CEO of Alphabet, Microsoft, OpenAI, and Anthropic. Anthropic is a little different than the others because its job is to make sure that AI stays on track.
Yeah.
It doesn't cause any intentional or unintentional causes problems for humans. So anyway, the output of this meeting was that these guys agreed to open up their systems and let somebody take a look at how they're operating and if they present any problems with causing any danger or security issues for humans. So it should be interesting what comes out. Now, there was another report that in addition to those four, that there were a couple of people agreed that they could open up their systems too. NVIDIA, Hugging Face, Stability AI, and I think there was another one, I don't remember. But I don't know if they just kind of jumped in to get on the bandwagon, or I don't think they were at the meeting, but that's what it didn't sound like. So, but anyway, the intent is to make sure that all the models align with the principles and practices that the Biden administration's got a blueprint for AI. There's a Bill of Rights and AI risk management framework. And those were put out like, I think 6 months ago. So they're trying to make sure that AI aligns with that. And I think it's good as long as we don't get too deep into it and cause it to stumble or stop or, let China get ahead of us in the whole deal. But, take a look at it and, maybe make some suggestions on issues that may not be secure enough or whatever. But, I wouldn't like to see them get too deep into it. So,
yeah. Well, hey, Kamala's on the case.
Yes.
I'm sure it's gonna do great, and there's gonna be a lot that'll get done because her track record is really good. So.
There was nothing about word salad in the press release.
She's trying really hard, Pat.
I know she is trying. I think she was the border czar. So, anyways, but hey, this is a tech show. We really don't get into things like that. Yeah, the UK CMA and the EU and everybody's putting the clamps on. In fact, China's locked it down pretty hard publicly.
Yeah.
But make no mistake, China is cranking on this thing. And there were actually some new hardware limitations that were put on China. Sorry, new ones that are being considered even stricter than the ones that are in play today, and that impacts companies like NVIDIA, AMD, startups like Grok, Tenstorrent, folks like that. So again, with pandemonium comes industry analyst requirements. We love crazy pandemonium because, hey, we have the luxury of not having, to work for one company, right? We're monitoring like 260 companies out there.
We almost need AI to do that, Pat.
We do. And I may or may not be working on a product that, ingests all of our videos ever and all of our papers. And, who knows? We might have a channel that runs 24/7, right? The More Insights and Strategy Data Podcast Center. If 1 hour or 45 minutes every 2 weeks doesn't cut you, we have you covered.
I heard there's a new AI center in Wuhan, China.
That's it. I heard that too. Don't be giving confidential information out like that, Paul. So hey, where is everybody traveling? I mean, man, I'm going to be busy. I'm leaving Sunday night, shooting some 6.5 videos, going to IBM Think. Also going to hit a couple sessions at Intel Vision. Then I trek off to an IBM Quantum event in Paris, and then I'm off to an ARM event in Cambridge, and then I am off to Dell Tech World.
Yes.
And also going to catch a little bit of Microsoft Build. And then when I get back at the end of the month, I'm off to San Jose shooting some videos. So, yeah. It's going to be, you can imagine a jet coming in for a landing, like parts falling off and duct tape peeling off. I told the Dell folks the other day, like you're not going to get the best of me, and I'm sorry. but I'll be there.
Well, I'll be in New Orleans next week for ConnectX. It'll be my first time there. I'm looking forward to hosting a panel and participating in a second. And then I've got an easy one. Big 5G event is in Austin mid-May.
Yeah, it is.
So I'll be there, and I'll just be an observer. I'm going to be meeting with several different companies. And then I'm actually headed to Europe again the week before Memorial Day, taking my 2 daughters to Italy. There are no events. Pat, there are no events that week, so I'm not going to miss anything. So.
This is not they're not giving you the key to the city type of event.
No, unfortunately not. But Riga, Latvia is working on that. I should expect that in the fall. So.
Seriously.
I just got back from Boulder a couple of days ago, and I'll be in Orlando with maybe see Pat. I don't know for the
I think we might be taking a plane ride together. So
yeah.
Excellent. Matt, are you lounging at home?
I'll be in my pajamas. No, I got a busy schedule. So I've got Intel Vision next week, and while I'm there in person, I'll be doing Nutanix.next virtually. After that, I've got next trip will be Dell Tech World, and I'll be doing the Red Hat Summit virtually. And then the week after that is, I believe, Cisco, and then the week after that is Pure Accelerate. Both of those in Vegas, and then the week after that is HPE Discover, also in Vegas. So I'm taking up residency in Las Vegas. I will be doing a stage appearance, I'm sure, with Liza Minnelli or somebody during that time.
Well, I'll be hanging out with you, Matt, at Live, and I'll be actually there the following week for Zscaler, their event. And so, I'll be punching my Vegas semi-resident card as well.
In a sick way. I mean, I like Vegas just because it's so, staying at the Venetian or staying at the Palazzo. It's literally, I know where everything is.
Yeah.
Everything, every restaurant. I mean, there's zero ambiguity about that. So in some sick way, I prefer that. And I prefer that over like a San Francisco conference where, it's a little dicey there now.
Well, you better wear your flak jacket.
I'm going to be doing the Google Cloud event there, and I pray for me. Okay.
Yeah, well, there's apparently no shopping in Union Square anymore because all the retailers have shut down now.
I saw that. No, a lot of the high-end stores still open, but I don't expect when their leases run out, it's going to be very, very pretty right now. But anyways, a lot less shows that are happening in San Francisco. Salesforce, sticking to their guns. Oracle officially said, no thanks. We're a Las Vegas shop now.
Yep.
But a lot less and less shows out there. Guys,
when you go to San Francisco, it's BYOT is bring your own tent.
There we go. Yeah. We'll edit that out. No, I'm just kidding. Hey guys, great to see everybody. Paul and Will, great to see you back on the show. Matt and I kind of missed you guys, but no, you do make it a lot more fun and a lot more integral and comprehensive. So we really appreciate everybody tuning in. Give all the accolades to @PatrickMoorhead and give all the complaints on Twitter to the rest of the team. No, we really appreciate you. If you like what you heard, we're completely offended and want to try to cancel us, then hit that subscribe button. But wherever you are, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the planet. Take care. Peace out.